Hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda, and we're going to talk about Squash That series. So, this was one of those spur of the moment, I didn't think I was going to do it challenges that all of a sudden, like 2 days before New Year's, I was talking to Amy from A Star Reads, and she was like, I'm going to do Squash That series. And I was like, I've seen that around because I follow Bailey. And so I was like, I've seen it, but I haven't participated. And she was like, well, qualifying is happening the 1st and 2nd of January. You need to sign up. So I did. And it is now the 15th of January, and I might regret that a little bit, that I signed up for that, because I've spent the last 15 days reading 17 books for Squash That series. That's not true. They've not all been for the series, for the Squash That series, but let's talk about it. Qualifying was 2 days, January 1st and 2nd. We had to read 500 pages and 6 hours of reading. Well, that was not a big deal for me. I read The Toll by Neil Shusterman. That ended up qualifying me in both counts. It took 6 hours and it was over 500 pages. So I finished that series as well, the Arc of the Scythe series. And so it worked because it couldn't be the first book in a series. So it just had to be anything other than that, not the first book. So I read The Toll and finished off the Scythe series, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. The series as a whole is 5 stars, but that's not what we're here for. Then I needed to read another book for a series that was in a series. And what they're doing this year, what Bailey's doing, is every Tuesday night, she spins a wheel and we play one of the previous Squash That series games. Now, since I've never been in Squash That series, I didn't know what we were doing, but I've never played any of them. And she spun 24 in 48 hours. So the way we did that, because it's a whole week, it's not just 48 hours, is we had to time the number of hours and minutes that we read for the whole week, from midnight Tuesday night till midnight Tuesday night. That doesn't make sense. Till 12 a.m. Tuesday to 11:59 p.m. the next Tuesday. We had the whole week to read and track our hours. And we're on a bracket, so we're competing, and I was competing against someone in the first round. After we did the qualifying rounds, we were put into this bracket, and then we had to compete against each other for the number of hours. So over the course of that first week, I read Burning Dawn, which is in the Angels of the Dark series, also Lords of the Underworld, like it's all together in one big series. I read Equal Rights by Terry Pratchett, and actually I didn't finish any of these books. I started them all. I started Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson, The Darkest Warrior by Gina Showalter, A Faint Cold Fear by Karen Slaughter, Spy Family by Tatsuya Endo, Saga by Brian Vaughan, 14 by J.T. Ellison, Luscious by Lexi Blake, and Act of Mercy by Mandy Roth. I started all of those and got almost to the end of every one of them, except Words of Radiance. I'm still reading that one. That was 48 hours long, and I didn't want to rush through it. So I am still taking my time on that one. But because we weren't counting books finished, we were counting hours read. I read all of those books, and I read for over 45 hours. I can't exactly remember how many I got, and I was able to stop because the last check-in that we did, we still had like 5 hours till midnight or something. And my person that I was competing against was more than 5 hours behind me. So I was already a winner. And so we didn't have to track hours anymore after we had already won. So that means the first week I won, I get to advance forward, and we rolled for a new game. So we are almost at the end of that second week's game, and it is teams. And so my person that I beat is now my teammate, and we have called ourselves the Weird Sisters because I read the Terry Pratchett book. She also likes Terry Pratchett, and in his book, he has the Weird Sisters. So that is what we picked for our team name, and our team is competing against this other team that has the very first qualifying person and the third qualifying person. They're on a team together. And we did already get an update, and they are killing us. Like, they are beating us by so many points. Now, what we get to do this week is we were able to finish all of those books, and then they count as positive points towards us and then negative points to our opponents. So I finished that whole list of books except for Words of Radiance. I finished all of those. And then I have finished Curse of the Arctic Star, which is from the Nancy Drew Diaries. I finished Home by Nnedi Okorafor, which is Binti book. I read Heartstopper Volume 5 by Alice Oseman, which gets me caught up to that series. I read Strangers on a Train, also part of the Nancy Drew Diaries. And that's it. I am in the middle of Blood Song by Anthony Ryan, which is a Raven Shadow series. So all of those books have now been finished this week. So I have finished a lot of books, which gives our team a lot of points. However, this other team that we're competing against that has like apparently the best readers in the world on it, they have finished a lot more books than we have and taken more points away from us. So I don't know the final score. I will have the final score maybe before this video goes live, but probably not before I'm editing it. So I don't know the final score, but I'm sure we're not going to win because I have stopped reading the series books. I have now read Ink Blood Sister Scribe, which is the book club that I'm in on another channel. And I've read There's No Such Thing as an Easy Job, which was my Buzzwordathon book for January. So I am still reading the series because I'm still reading Words of Radiance slowly, and I'm reading Blood Song. So I'm not stopping, but I just need to focus on the books for January that I had already picked to read before 2 days before the month I decided to start this mess. So that is where we are with Squash That Series. I have won week 1. And now I am not going to win week 2. But the good news about it is going into week 3, me and my teammate Elsa will now be a part of the other team. So when somebody beats you, you become their cheerleaders and you get to still read series and still count your scores, but it just doesn't count exactly the same as the main person, the active player, as it does for the cheerleaders. So after this week, I will no longer be an active player. I will be a cheerleader. So I am very excited about it just because I've made it through a lot of series just here in the first 2 weeks of January, which is always the point of this readathon. And it's always a lot of fun to do based on how much fun people have had in the past. And then based on how much interaction there's been just in these last 2 weeks. I know that it's fun and I know I'm going to continue to do it into the future. So we still have 2 more weeks. I will check back at the end of January and tell you how it all wrapped up and how everything went. But that is where I am right now and where I'm standing, and we will see what game we're going to play next week and all of that stuff. And I'm sure it's going to be just as much fun as it has been so far. So let me know how you're doing with series. Like, how do you track your series trackers? I have one that I'm trying to, I already have the 50 books that everybody knows about, but I have a tracker that I'm trying to start being very intentional when I read a book that is part of a series, whether it's book 1 or something that I've previously read before, making a list of them. Because there's so many series that I've started and I haven't written them specifically down in any kind of series tracker. And I really want to keep up with it this year. So that is one of the things that I'm going to do. So if you don't have a comment, let's say, you can leave me a stack of books or a book emoji, because I have read a lot of books this year and it's already been a lot of fun. So that is it. That is going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.